there's this really big gap between what people know is good and what they believe they can create. And so when you're first starting, you don't know how to use any of the programs. And it's really frustrating. So, and the work you put out at this level is at this level when you know it should be at this level. So bridging this gap is what takes time.
Yeah.
And what is the most frustrating part of it. You'll always get better. Like, I'm so much better than I was day one. I hope I'm twice as good in 10 years than I am today. And just as long as you give yourself the grace to be able to start and improve, then it'll be a good path for you.
I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to get together. Can you take me back to the beginning of your creative journey?
Yeah, how far do you want to go is the real question.
as far back as you want to go.
Yeah, I like telling this story because it's kind of funny, just because it brings up the question if like you're born with artistic talent or if you're kind of, if you learn it over time. Because I feel like the only reason I'm actually in this space is because my preschool teacher told my parents that my finger paintings were just better than the rest of the class.
Yeah.
And I feel like with those small reinforcements of like, you're good at this or art was enough to propel me to continue it in my career. So I was always creative as a kid, like always enjoyed it. It was really the only thing I was ever good at, and was just very entrepreneurial, like always wanted to do art, but wasn't sure how to necessarily make it a career. And so like the beginning of it all really started with drawing onto t-shirts and then learning that you could actually make designs, put them onto t-shirts or do it for real.
Yeah.
And then that sprouted into a few apparel businesses, then working for like actual surf skate companies like Element, Hurley, O'Neill. And then I started my own. My dream of being in my local surf shop was completed. So all these cool things that have to do with apparel. And then after college, I worked for a creative agency, which is not so creative. It was more so like creating real estate brochures.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that was enough for me to realize that that's not what I wanted to do forever,
Right.
but also opened my eyes to like logo and branding as being like an opportunity.
You've done like a lot of shifting to
Yeah.
get to where you are, which is cool. So did you go to school for
I
graphic
did.
design?
Yeah. I went
Okay.
to the University of Arizona, which was more of a degree in partying than anything else. But
Yeah.
I did get my degree in art, in the arts, fine arts. But I used most of my time there to develop a clothing brand for fraternity and sorority apparel. And that was really successful.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I know you said you started out with drawing and like focusing on apparel. Like what do you think like got you interested in that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It really stems from my dad being in the apparel space, and that always inspired me to. He inspired me to get into apparel, but I think it was always just a means to actually make art, not a hobby. And so it's like being a starving artist or being a artist for museums or art exhibits or whatever. It's just like it's a much harder business. And so trying to figure out how to make art sustainable was like always kind of the priority. But I think I quickly realized that it's actually a really great career path, and that there's a lot of opportunity in it. And apparel helped that.
Yeah, for sure. I know you're a graphic designer. You're also an illustrator. You work with apparel, you do logos, packaging. Talk to me a little bit about what your like day in the life looks like. You work for yourself, so it's like I just want to know like what that structure looks like for you.
Yeah, working for yourself, you make your own structure. And so you get to choose what every day is going to be like. And when it comes to like what project I'm working on, I don't necessarily have, the say of what comes in. Like one day it can be a logo, one day it can be packaging, one day it can be apparel. And that's what I actually enjoy about it, because I do think that too much of anything is, can get overwhelming or just eventually get stale at least.
Yeah.
So it's fun to be able to, keep my creative juices flowing and put my hands in a bunch of different, buckets. But when it comes to just a day in life, it's no crazier than any other. You get out of bed, drink some coffee, make some art, and go to sleep,
Sounds good. Can you take me to like a little bit of the early days of what it looked like for you when you were in college and like when you got out of it? Like what did finding like a job look like for you in that at that time? Like were you like focused a lot on getting your portfolio like done a specific way? Like,
good question.
Like what did that look like?
Yeah, super good question, because I think it's valuable for kids graduating college to like understand what's most important. And if I could do it again, I probably wouldn't do it the same way. I more or less fell into my job after college because there's a neighbor of mine, and he was working out of his garage doing paintings and designs, and I just thought it was super cool. So I went up and talked to him, and he ended up giving me an internship, and that was what I worked like 3 years in the summertime at that agency, which is the same agency that does like the real estate brochures that I got afterwards. So, relationships are a super important piece, and I would definitely, say to anyone that's going to graduate college that like the first job you get may most likely be from your relationships.
Yeah.
But what I would do again, if in this day and age, is I don't even know if I would focus on like, making sure portfolio is this or that. I think establishing some sort of presence on social media is most important. And, I was doing things a little bit backwards, but once I actually began to realize the importance of putting out the work that you want to receive is really when my business started taking off.
Gotcha. So social media, I feel like that's so important these days, especially to like showcase your work. Like that's like the new website these days. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Or a business card.
So true.
Can you think of like when that flip happened where you were able to really grow a following?
Yeah, because when in the beginning phases, it's you think in your head like it's all about getting the work. I need the work. How do I get the work? And then I need work to show the work to then get the work. But it's actually not like that at all. And if you're in the early days, like what I would suggest is just focusing on your own passion projects. And like you said, like social media is really now your portfolio. And so if you can just put out the work you want to receive, that's really where I got the light bulb moment that like, because I was putting out all this work that I was just getting from jobs, and then getting jobs like those jobs, even though I don't want any of that, but then in my free time, I'd be putting out work that I just enjoy. And then people would be like, oh, like that's cool. Is this for sale? Or like, can I get this? And so that was like a really big light bulb. I was like, well, maybe if I just focused more time on creating like surf graphics, I'll get more clients that like surf graphics. And so that's totally something I would recommend to anybody starting out. Like, don't think about any other client work except the work you actually want to do.
Can you tell me a little bit more about like the projects that you've worked on, and like maybe what one of your favorite projects to do was?
Yeah, choosing favorite project is like choosing favorite child. One of them was a beer company I made for an Australian beer brand, and the jerky company came to me and basically provided that, and now they're just crushing it. So there's so many different brands, but I always say that my favorite project's the next one because it just gives me an opportunity to, do something I haven't done before, or eventually just hopefully just grow a little bit and continue to make something better than maybe the last.
Are most clients reaching out to you and, through social media, or like because they see you, or are you doing outreach yourself? Yeah,
99% through social media, the 1% from something random. But, for most of my business, like 50% of my business or more would be from like recurring clients, but any new business is always through social media. I think the hardest thing to do as a designer is to, design yourself or brand yourself. So it's its own challenge, but I think if you can have fun with it, which I try to do, then it doesn't feel too bad. It's just like all of a sudden a graphic designer can't just be a graphic designer. You got to be a content editor, you got to be a video editor, producer, you got to be a photographer, you got to, there's all these different things. So I wasn't initially comfortable with any of that, but over time became a lot more comfortable.
You have to like put yourself out there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? But I get the uncomfortableness because I'm also like, oh, I don't love this, but something I think you just have to do.
Yeah, I just said this morning, and also at Creative Mornings, there's a speaker who said a quote that goes along with what I've been running with for a while now. But I think everything that you want is on the other side of cringe. I heard that quote, and I just think cringe is like what stops so many people on like from even starting on social media, or the idea that someone could possibly think negatively about you for like trying. And initially it like anyone who's trying to do something that's not initially successful may be thought of as cringy. But the second there's success behind it, everyone's like, oh, of course, I knew they were gonna be like successful or whatever. So anyways, the long story, and the speaker this morning, she said, ChatGPT does not cringe. And it's funny to think about what we possibly are up against when it comes to the rise of AI. Mm-hmm. And like a robot's not going to think twice about what someone thinks about them. And if you're going to prevent yourself from actually starting something or doing anything really because of the thought of possibly being cringe, then that's where you're going to fall behind.
AI is like such a crazy thing now. How do you feel about that? Like, are you using it to work on, like, do you use it in your projects? Like, are you taking getting references from AI or?
Yeah,
like how?
AI is great. I think AI is actually the more people are getting comfortable with the idea of AI, the less bad it is. But I still think there's plenty of bad, but I think there's plenty of good. So I'm neutral, but I've actually seen a positive shift in my business because of it, because I previously would do just a lot of logo on itself because people weren't initially seeing the value in like a whole brand identity, even though I know the value of brand identity. And I had this internal battle if I need to do the extra work to educate and explain and maybe even sell or upsell a brand identity. And it felt off for me. I want what's best for the client. If the client's happy, then I'm happy, and I'm gonna have fun creating a logo for them. So that's cool. But now with ChatGPT, the value of a logo is almost zero because anyone can create a logo with a snap of their finger. So what's changed for my business is now people are coming to me already maybe exploring a logo on ChatGPT and saying, I created this, but I want it better. And I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong with this, or why do you want something better? Or why can't you just do another prompt in ChatGPT? And usually their answers are something along the lines of like, well, it's just not what I'm looking for. It just doesn't feel right. And then I ask them, well, if you try to take that logo and scaled it down to your Instagram icon or your website header, banner, or all these different applications, do you think it's going to work well? And they say no. And I say, well, then what about this? And I show them what a brand identity looks like and how it's scalable and it works on everything. And not only are you achieving the logo, but you're achieving every part of your business, and their mind is all of a sudden blown. So it's almost like ChatGPT has been my sales manager, they're giving me an outlet to one up that event that initially wasn't there before. So it somehow turned on its head for me.
That's a great way to look at it. For someone that is curious about graphic design, where should they start? What's step one? I know that's
Well, curious about graphic design, so haven't picked up a design tool.
Yeah, nothing.
Know nothing about the space. If I could actually sit down with someone who has no idea what knows what graphic design is, but has not started with it, I'd start asking so many whys. The same way I would approach a client conversation. Just I have to get to the root of understanding what they're trying to accomplish. And so I usually ask my clients what does success look like for you for this project? So I would ask the same thing for someone who's starting out in graphic design, what does success look like for you if you want to be a graphic designer? And if they tell me, well, I just want to create cool art, or if I want to be making $1 million, or if I just want to be my own boss, there's so many different ways of approaching it. And I could probably answer all three, to be honest. And if you're trying to make $1 million, you're probably in the wrong space. If you just want to make art for fun, like, I'd introduce them to the programs. I think Adobe is the best or the leading, program out there. So, learning the software, Adobe Illustrator would be a great place to start. There's no easier time than the present, like with YouTube and tutorials and people online, like following me. I show process all the time. So that'd be a great start. And then the last one is if you just want to, make art for yourself, then I think it's a great space that just to try. Just try it out, enjoy yourself, see if you're able to sharpen your drawings tools. Like when I first started, my main goal with doing design was just to make like all of my drawings look perfect. Because in pencil to paper, like if I tried a perfect circle, I'd like be frustrated for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. But in Illustrator, I could do it in half a second, So there's a whole new landscape that you can learn and just be able to play around with and see what works best for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good advice, asking the why. Let's say they know the why and they're like, okay, this is something I really want to do. How can they maybe like, is there any steps that they can take to like get ahead or really like stand out with,
Yeah, I wish there was some sort of shortcut to get ahead or stand out. Because I think the biggest frustration why most people will try this career path and then either fail or, stop. And I think the only way you fail is by stopping. But is because there's this really big gap between what people know is good and what they believe they can create. And so when you're first starting, you don't know how to use any of the programs. And it's really frustrating. So, and the work you put out at this level is at this level when you know it should be at this level. So bridging this gap is what takes time.
Yeah.
And what is the most frustrating part of it. And what could also possibly give that like imposter syndrome where someone's charging for work knowing that they're not giving them the best result that the client should have or need, whereas there's plenty of other people out there that can do that. So I would just say, like, don't expect those shortcuts, don't expect those, quick success things, and eventually you'll always get better. Like, I'm so much better than I was day one. I hope I'm twice as good in 10 years than I am today. And just as long as you give yourself the grace to be able to start and improve, then it'll be a good path for you. I wonder what this new age of designer will look like if they decide to sharpen their own personal tools first or jump straight into ChatGPT and then like become basically like they don't need to be an illustrator anymore. They can just, create or generate an image and then tweak and make better. So I would say like this is the easiest time to be a graphic designer.
Right.
You don't have to be all these different things anymore. You just need to, be able to use the tools in the best way possible. And this has always been like the original debate of like if tracing is bad or if using a reference is bad, does it make the art any less good? And so that level of like that looming thing of like what is approved by an artist is always it's always changing. And so now with ChatGPT, that's like, that's the sin now that was tracing or was using a reference. And I just think if you can understand that it doesn't really matter as long as the client is happy, then I think you're doing a good job. And so that's advice I would give to a new designer, but just, don't be mad if like the older crowd, like they'll probably hate me for saying that, like don't be mad if the older crowd doesn't necessarily like approve of you or your art if they know that like you're just an AI artist or something like that.
Do you have any advice on working with clients? Like how can you really comfort them in the decisions that you're making? Like how do you deal with like different types of clients? Like is there something that you would recommend? Yeah,
I would say stay as curious as possible. Go into the meeting as a professional, but basically acting as if you don't know anything, because you need to have them tell you all the answers before you can tell them the answers. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does as I explain it a little further. If you go into a meeting and you ask the why and you ask what success means to them, and you understand more of their business and their goals for, let's say, the next year or to 5 years, then once they give you all that information, your pitch gets 10 times better. Then I can talk directly to why everything I'm about to give you is going to solve those issues directly. And so the communication part really has to do with understanding what their needs are and then catering your solutions, exactly to that.
Okay. So you've done stuff yourself, and then you've also worked for someone else.
Yeah, some surf skate companies, and a creative agency, like multiple different things.
So if someone's not sure if they want to go the freelance route or if they want to work for another person, like what do you think is like a good way to figure out what the right thing for them? I know that's like a hard question, but
no, it's a good question, because I think, like, my mom always wanted me to work for someone. She didn't think that there's enough stability in freelance, So like you have these like external pressures telling you where to go and what to do. But I just think that if you can put yourself in the least risk scenario possible, then you'll give yourself the most ability to be successful. So when I started, I thought I needed to, like, I'll even use financial terms. Like I was making $60,000 a year my last year of college in the apparel brand that I was making, which I didn't really have a true grasp on like what $60,000 meant in the workplace, but I thought I was making great money for a college student. And then I stopped that business to work for a creative agency that paid me $45,000. So I took like a $15,000 decrease doing what I thought I should be doing, right? But then I saw that this creative agency was charging $100,000 for one brochure. So I'm like, which space is the correct one?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing? But those experiences allowed me to create the best decisions. And so when I was at the agency, I started my Instagram account on the side, which started getting traction while I was still getting paid by the agency, which allowed like a very smooth transition. So when people ask like, what made you do the jump from freelance full time? And I don't like the term the jump, because I don't think you should ever like throw all of your eggs into one basket and just like have this leap of faith and expect things to always like work out. Because if you're able to give yourself the least risk scenario possible, which hopefully is like having something stable, maybe that's working at an agency, and then being able to do something on the side, it gives you like a no risk scenario. And so personally, if you're out of college, like I would get the job, learn some experience. You're gonna pick up a lot of things that you probably wouldn't initially know just by not being able to do it often. They're gonna have plenty of clients. You're gonna be able to work with them, understand the process more, all the good things. And then you're going to be able to do a better job on your own. But that doesn't mean you have to. I just think it's better, and maybe for like 1 year, 2 years. So I think that regardless of what I'm telling you to do or saying advice wise, like I just think the best thing you can do is just start, do something, make decisions. If you can't make those decisions, you're gonna be like, oh, like, maybe next year or maybe next week. And like that will eventually lead to disaster. Like just get started, put something out there, and it will get better.
So, Cole, when did you realize that art was more than a hobby to you?
I think it was probably in the 4th grade, and I sold t-shirts t-shirts and hats that I hand drew with Sharpie on like my parents' counter. And I think I made like a couple $100 in the elementary school quad, like selling them. And people were stoked, and I was really stoked. and some of my friends still have these hand-drawn t-shirts, so it's funny. But I just think the second you realize that someone will pay for the thing that you make is like, that was a huge light bulb moment for me, that I was like, well, maybe this is something I can do.
Yeah. 4th grade.
Yeah.
I think that might be one of the youngest realization answers that I've had. I
learned Adobe Illustrator at like 12.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
maybe even
freaking cool.
So I'm almost 30. So like, almost 20 years of using Adobe Illustrator, which I think is a lot longer than the majority of people my age.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at my art and you're like, he's good, I'm like, yeah, I've been doing it. We're doing it for a really long time, you know what I mean? So that's the starting and knowing what you should create versus how much time it actually takes to get somewhere.
What would be your message to someone out there that wants to pursue this career?
I would just tell them that I'm stoked. This is a good career. I have a lot of fun. Like, I love my job. I couldn't do anything else. And so if you're passionate about art and want to make a career, I think this is a great career path. And it can be lucrative. Like, there's plenty of money in this business, and there's plenty of space for everyone. Like, everyone's like wondering if they should gatekeep clients and all those things. It's just, there's so much work to go around, and if you're good at what you do, then like, I think it's super rewarding. I don't know what else I'm trying to say. It's a great job. You should do it. if you're thinking about doing it, you should do it.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.